The day card for January 8th, 2019, I drew the Priestess from the Black Flame Tarot. You'll notice I tend to like using the Black Flame Tarot for the daily readings or the day cards because I just really like this deck and it speaks to me. I like to use other decks for the general 3-card reading because I also like variety. And I think tarot decks as sort of a language of the subconscious or the collective unconscious, just like a good book, we can benefit from a variety of translations. So we'll continue on that course. For today's card, I just want to, before I put this back down, I want to draw attention to something that I only saw recently, which was all these faces or masks around our priestess. And this face here. And I find an interesting little detail up here. Now we have her arms crossed across her chest, and we have here her blouse opened somewhat so we can see maybe the shoulder bones protruding there, or the bones on the chest. And I don't know if this was intentional, but if you look closely, right in here, doesn't that also look like a face with its eyes closed and a little smirk or smile? That all comes into play as we look at this card, because in the Priestess, the number 2 in the major arcana, we have a gestative card. We have a card representative of our growth before we grow, our development before we begin to expand. This involves some self-study. And here the masks come into play, don't they? Because we wear different masks throughout the day and in different contexts. Don't we use them differently? How do you use yours? What masks do you wear? And how do you make use of them throughout the day? Do the lines between you, represented here, this true self, this core self, do the lines between that and these masks you use at your job or with your spouse or with your children or with the people on the bus ever blur? Do they ever get a little difficult to distinguish? I've already identified this as the core self, but what about this little hidden possible face on her chest? Excuse me, still have a bit of a cold. I think of that as the shadow self, as Jung described it. That person that we hide away from everybody, sometimes including ourselves. We don't even want to acknowledge that ourselves. And yet, Jung taught that by repressing that self and not giving it any room to express itself or to decompress, we actually become a bit more like it, maybe more than we'd like to. So it may help, in fact it will help, to give that some outlet as well, perhaps in your creative pursuits or your artistic pursuits. Now, a person wants to take some root as their core self. A fine noble endeavor. However, we also need to beware of taking root to such an extent that we become stagnant, immobile, unable to move forward, because we've got a long way to go on this journey. And once we complete this journey, we'll have another. So we don't want to get stuck. In that case, it almost reminds me of narcissists. We become so fixated on ourself right now that we don't move, and we grow roots, and we just stay there. Not a good situation. Now, you'll note the dominant color, purple. We will acquire some wisdom about ourselves in this endeavor, if we do it right. And we won't always do it right, so learn from it. Wisdom, right? Applied knowledge. If it doesn't work, learn from it, don't do it again. One way that we can learn about ourselves involves learning about different aspects of ourself. And we have here the corresponding 12. He corresponds to her almost like he has a root going in the different direction, but still an immobile figure. One caught between the light side and the dark side of himself. So just like her, he needs to move a little bit. He needs to work to learn in this present condition, but not get stuck there. And a way they both can do this involves, as I mentioned, looking at different aspects of oneself. Check out your intellect. Look at your relationships, and especially the one with yourself. What creative endeavors and potentials do you have? What do you want to do? And how do you want to apply all this to changing things in your internal and external environments? As you observe and analyze each of these, you'll not only get a clearer picture of yourself in each of these contexts, but you'll begin to see how these work together, how you can use creativity in your interactions with others and with yourself, how you can use your creativity to balance your intellect, and how you can use the intellectual side, the analysis and the reasoning, to play with your creativity. How you can use all of these to transform things within yourself, and how you can transform things within yourself to affect every single one of these aspects of your life. This personal study takes a bit of time, so take what time you need to do this. Maybe you'll make this your project for the year. We've just started 2019. You can use 3 months on each, or 2 months on each, and use the other few months to begin playing with and exploring their connections and how they work together. Don't take too long. Don't take longer than you need, else the knot will grow tighter. The roots will grow a little too deep, as opposed to spreading outward. And then you'll have another project which will probably involve the swords. We got to get cutting some things. Nothing wrong with using effort to overcome issues that you've encountered, but better to not have those issues in the first place and save the energy of fixing them so you can apply it to some other things. So make this a theme for the day. Start looking at how you might work on these various areas of your life and use that toward your transformation. As always, please leave some comments below, leave some thoughts, leave some questions, leave some suggestions. I love discussion, and the comments section provides for that very nicely. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to share, and I will see you next time. Until then, keep learning and keep transforming.